So we'll graph both 3 to the x and 1/3 to the x. And then we'll answer the questions in B just for 1/3 to the x. But when you're graphing an exponential, and these would be, we're going to call these our parent graphs. And the reason we didn't do this in chapter 3 is because there are so many parent graphs or base graphs for exponentials, because each base can change, and you have another base graph or another parent graph. So you have to say, oh, 3 to the x, this is an exponential graph. I know that I'm going to have the point 0, 1, and when I plug in 1, I'll get 1, 3. Those are the 2 points you need to be able to graph. And then you need to know that the shape of it looks like this, with an asymptote, dotted red line here, at y = 0. Same thing for 1/3 of x. You know that you're going to have the point 0, 1, and when you plug in 1, you get 1, 1/3. So this one swoops down and has an asymptote at y = 0. So when we draw our asymptote with a red pen, we make it dotted, and we always label it y = 0.
Please pardon the interruption. Would Ms. Taranoff's period 3 French class, if you can please make your way down to the front foyer now, please, for your field trip for period 3. Thank you.
Field trip. Nice. I could see, I think no one's teaching in Mr. Watt's room this period. We can maybe do a field trip, fill out forms, and have class in there once or something. So we're going to do part B for the 1/3 graph. We're going to describe what happens to y when x goes up by 1. Right? So if we look at our table of values here, what happens to y? You could either say y is divided by 3 or multiplied by 1/3, because that's what's happening each time, and you can see it in the equation. Each time x goes up by 1, you have to multiply by another 1/3. And multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3. This one's decreasing. You can see that it's going down. It has only a y-intercept of 1. There's no x-intercept because there's an asymptote there. There is an equation of an asymptote. It's y = 0. The most common mistake for asymptotes, because asymptotes, we draw them when there's non-permissible values, make sure that you don't write a line through the equal sign, because that is the opposite of an equation. That's something that's not true. When they say equation, they want you to write something with an equal sign. The domain of the function is everything, and the range is y is bigger than 0, or you could write it in interval notation as 0 to infinity.